thank you so much, Russ, for that. And now I'd like to introduce our very special guest today. This is Undersecretary Donald Cravins with the Minority Business Development Agency. The National Center is very grateful for the relationship that we have with MBDA and grateful especially for your attendance here today. The 2021 Minority Business Development Act was signed by President Biden, and the importance of that act is something actually that I'm going to let you speak about. But it was a big step forward in terms of the work that we believe in and the work that we are doing. Undersecretary Cravins has an incredible bio, and I can only touch on the highlights today. He has served in elected positions in Louisiana. He has worked with nonprofits like the National Urban League. His list of accolades is really impressive, and I wish that I had enough time to share all of them. The MBDA, the Minority Business Development Agency, provides all kinds of training, technical assistance resources, and the program that brings us here today is the the American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian project. And through this initiative, we are able to provide you with our services, our business counseling, and today's event. So with that, let me turn it over to you, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. How are you? Good, good. Well, welcome to the nation's capital, your capital, and it's an honor to be with you this morning. As my introducer said, I'm Don Cravins, and I'm honored and thankful to be our nation's first Undersecretary for Minority Business Development. And the reason, well, thank you. But I'm thankful to you, because as Chris said to me just a few minutes ago, you all have been making the case to Congress for at least 20 years, and some of you even longer, and to the administrations in the past of why MBDA is important, why we need an agency whose sole purpose is about minority business leaders. And for 50 years or so, men and women like you have been making that case. And so in 2021, Congress had a choice. They could have let MBDA go by the wayside and say, hey, it served its time. It was a temporary agency created by Richard Nixon. It had its place. We don't need it anymore. Or they could have stepped it up and said, not only do we need an MBDA, but we want to make it permanent. We want to codify it, and we want to give it some teeth. And thankfully, they choose the latter. And so I wanted to be here today, and when Chris calls, I'm going to be here because we wouldn't be an agency we are without you and the National Center's support and your individual support. As I said, President Nixon created this in 1969, and I think at the point he did it because people of color and our Native and Indigenous people have been crying out for this for centuries. But after the Civil Rights Movement, folks said, we need something based upon economics, not just civil rights and social justice, which is important, but we want economic justice too. We're a stronger America when we're a more inclusive America on Main Street. And so President Nixon created this temporary agency, and again, it's been temporary for 53 years, and men and women who I have with me today who worked at the agency, Ms. Woods has been here for 17 years, they didn't know on any given day whether the agency would be there tomorrow. They didn't know if this Congress would fund it, or that Congress would fund it, or this president would keep it. But again, thanks to your hard work, to your efforts, our hard work, we got it passed and we made it permanent. So the act does three things. First, it created an undersecretary. And what's important about that, just to kind of get into that a little bit, is in the leadership of government, you have a secretary of a department. We have a secretary of commerce, Gina Raimondo, who sends her regards. Right underneath the secretary, the second person in charge, the COO of the organization, is the deputy secretary. And so at Commerce, we're very fortunate to have Don Graves, who serves as our deputy secretary. But right underneath the deputy secretary, that third layer of presidential appointees who also have to be confirmed by the Senate are undersecretaries. So MBDA now sits at the same table with the secretary and the undersecretary. My title is just as important as the person who runs the census for the country, the gentleman who monitors NOAA, the National Oceanic Administration, the Patent and Trademark Office, its leader is an undersecretary. Congress could have made me an assistant secretary, which is right below, which is still a very important job. But thanks to the bipartisan group, they made it an undersecretary position. So I'm no longer at the kiddie table. We're no longer in a folding chair. We no longer have to be invited to participate. Brothers and sisters, we are there. And no matter what the bill is, no matter what the topic is, semiconductor chips, broadband, Don Cravins is there representing all of you, saying, and what about my Native folks? What about Native-owned businesses? What about indigenous-owned business? What about black folks? What about Latinos? What about my Asian American business? What about entrepreneurs of color? How will they participate in this, sir, ma'am? That's why it was important to make us a permanent agency and to give us some teeth with an undersecretary. The second thing the act did is we want more Chris Jameses of America. We want to do more. We want MBDA to be bigger and bolder and stronger and better. And so the act has given us more money. We haven't gotten the money yet, but it said to Congress they need more money. We want them to have more centers. We want them to provide more technical assistance. We just allocated $1.2 trillion in infrastructure, right? How do indigenous folks and Native Americans and people who have been unserved and left behind, how do they participate? They don't want you to just build charging stations. They want to build the electric charging stations. They don't want you just to fix the highways. They want to come in and do the highways. So how do you do that? Well, you have a stronger MBDA, because we know that is our sole mission. And so the act requires us to build regional offices. So Chris, we'll have more people in the regions helping our business centers succeed and thrive. The act calls us to build rural centers. Why do I like that? Because I'm a country boy from Louisiana, and not only have I seen that many of our minority communities are left behind in rural Louisiana, but you know who gets left behind in rural Louisiana? My tribal nations get left behind in rural Louisiana. So when I go visit my friend Marshall Parite in Louisiana, it's out there. He's doing the best he can, but what could he do if he had more resources to the federal government like the MBDA? The last thing that the act does, and so undersecretary, we want more centers. The last thing the act does, ladies and gentlemen, is it says that we want MBDA to be the voice, the clearinghouse of all things minority business related. And that's why I wanted to be with you this morning, is because I need your help if I'm going to be the voice for us. I need your help. I need you to help provide me the information. I need the stories. I need the vision. I need the help. I need you all to tell me what is wrong, what is right, what's working, what's not. We cannot miss this once in a generation, for some of us, a once in a lifetime opportunity with this infrastructure that's coming through in the next 10 years. We cannot afford to miss it. You can't afford to miss it. Your children can't afford us to miss it. Our grandchildren can't afford us to miss it. And the only way we'll do it is if we're working together, we're being intentional, and we're being strategic. Now, let me tell you some good news. I work for an administration that gets it. From day one, President Biden issued an executive order about equity. And I will tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, I've been in government for a little bit. I'm 50, I've been around, I'm not too old, but definitely not young anymore. I have never seen this type of emphasis on making sure that everything we do is inclusive. Now, we still got to get there. I'm not here to tell you we fixed it, obviously, but at least it's being talked about. And it's being sourced. Everything we do at the Department of Commerce and at the other departments that I've been working with, equity is a driving. It's the beginning, not the end. That's why it's so, I was going to say fun, but it's so cool to be at the MBDA right now, because again, we're not being invited. We're being invited. I'm not just showing up. We're being invited. Just this year, and I've only been on the job for 8 weeks. We've signed a memorandum of understanding with Pete Buttigieg, Secretary Buttigieg. He called me. He didn't call my boss, his peer, Secretary Raimondo. He called MBDA. He said, there's no way we're going to be able to put out all this infrastructure money in transportation, do it right, if we don't have MBDA at the table. This is what you do. So he invited us and the Small Business Administration, and we have a memorandum of understanding that we're going to go in regions as they roll this out, And we're going to talk about these issues and see to it that there's some intentionality to make sure that people of all makes and models of America have an opportunity to participate if they so choose and are qualified to do so. The Department of Energy, they're calling us. We need MBDA. There's going to be a lot of energy investment in the infrastructure bill. Can MBDA help us be intentional in what we're doing? Heck yeah, we can. We'll be right there. It's what we do. I'll tell you another exciting thing. The Department of Treasury called MBDA and said, we got $100 million. We want to see that more Native and other people of color, that their businesses have access to private equity. Because as you know, it's hard to get private equity. It's very hard for women and people of color to get private equity, venture capital dollars. Treasury says, we want to do something about that. You know what, MBDA, you probably the folks who can do the best job with it. We're going to give you $100 million, and we want you to come up with a program that will help get people of color, business owners of color, ready so they can be more attractive to private equity and in turn be more prepared to do some of this infrastructure work. So ladies and gentlemen, in the next couple of weeks, very soon, I'll be reaching out to Chris and to many of you, and we will be talking about the launch of the State Small Business Credit Initiative Technical Assistance Program. And we're going to come up with a cool name. We're working on it. Felicia, you're on the clock. I need a cool name. But what will the program do? We will fund, it will be a grant program, so it's typical like what we do at MBDA. We're going to fund centers like the National Center that provide incubation or acceleration. We're going to be looking for centers that can get a business from 50 to 100. Probably. Some may be 0 to 100, but really businesses that are on the cusp, that are almost there, they just need that push. They need that spark. Because we don't have a lot of time, ladies and gentlemen, to do this work, to get them there, right? Infrastructure money's rolling out. Broadband, that stuff's coming. The states are working on it. So we're going to be launching this new program, this $100 billion program, and we're going to look across America for centers, for innovators, for incubators, who can provide technical assistance to get people ready. So I'm excited about that. MBDA has never had $100 million in our budget, ever. So it's not only important that Don and his team get it right for America, but it's also important we get it right for MBDA. So we can say we're ready. We're a real agency now. We're a real boy, right? We're not Pinocchio. We're not a puppet anymore. And so we're excited. There couldn't be a better time in our nation's, in our nation's history in some ways, but definitely in our generation's history, to be in this space. But we're going to need your help. We're going to need your wisdom. We're going to need you to participate in the program. We can't launch these programs and you just don't even apply. And the other thing I'll say to you is this. You're going to hear from a lot of government people over the next 2 or 3 years who are going to be talking about infrastructure and broadband and all these things. And I see people's faces sometimes, because some government bureaucrats, or we're not the most articulate, and it goes over people's heads, and I see your eyes, sometimes you gloss over. Ladies and gentlemen, please pay attention. This is never going to happen again. That we're going to invest $1.2 trillion in us, not in another country to provide aid or relief, in us. This is our domestic Marshall Plan that we've been asking for since World War II. Please don't let it gloss over you. Please don't miss out. Please don't say it's too hard. That's why you got Chris. That's why you have the National Center. That's why you have us. Let us help you. But don't miss this opportunity. Don't miss this opportunity. It's why elections matter. It's why leadership matters. It's why our citizenship matters. It's why the struggle that many of you in this room have been a part of, it's in our DNA, matters. Let's not miss this because it was just boring or hard or tough. If it's hard or tough, tell us so we can unhard it, right? We can make it easier. We can provide webinars, we can, as I said, we can eat the elephant one bite at a time. That is what MBDA has to do for you, but I can't do that if you don't help us. And so I am excited. I am fired up. I hope you hear it and see it. But it's a tough job. Systemic change is hard. You all know that better than anybody else probably in this country. But you're here, and you're fighters, and you're strong. And that's very much what MBDA is. There would be no MBDA without your community being a very strong part of that. And so I'm proud of the work that we do with you all. And I'm proud to be here as we honor our Native American Heritage Month. As I was telling Chris, we are the most diverse agency in the federal government. We got everybody working at MBDA. But we also are intentional in honoring the culture of our country at MBDA. We don't take that for granted just because we all happen to be people of color or not. We have white folks too, right? But we honor, we intentionally talk about the work we do and the people we serve. So we don't take our communities for granted. And so it's an honor to be here. And it's a pleasure. And I'm honored to work with Chris and the National Center. We want to be more intentional about that work. We want to step it up. We're going to work to make our center stronger, better, more accountable. We can get better. We agree. We can even do more work. But we're just proud of that we're still here after 53 years. And we're stronger and better and more intentional than ever. So I hope that this is a beginning, that this was an introduction. This will not be the last time you see or hear from me. If you need us, we are here for you. We are your agency. Our mission is very simple. If you read the Minority Business Development Act that created us, it's only 80 pages. It's worth the read, believe it or not. There's a lot of things in the act that you could find beneficial. But the first lines of the act is the Minority Business Development Agency is sole purpose, its sole mission is the growth and global competitiveness of minority businesses. What a wonderful mission. What a wonderful job that I have, thanks to you all and the good Lord. And members of Congress and President Biden. I'm so honored to be the first, but I damn sure don't want to be the last. And so we're going to build a great foundation with your help so that when your granddaughter is the 14th Undersecretary of Minority Business Development, she can say, boy, old man Cravins, Ms. Woods, Mr. Bellon, they did a great job of establishing a foundation, and it's stronger now than it ever was. And so, again, I need you. I need your help. MBDA needs you, but I promise you we'll be there for you. I'll wrap up by saying this. For so long, our communities, your community, my African-American community, Southern African-American community, we've been hearing help is on the way. We've been praying. Oh, help is on the way. It's like Charlie Brown in the football. Like I say, it's like a good but sad episode of Good Times. Help is on the way. Help is on the way. We're going to make it. Brothers and sisters, help is no longer on the way. Help is here with the MBDA, and we're permanent, and we're here to stay. So thank you all very much for letting me join you this morning. God bless you all, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you.